When the world thought I'd lost everything, my wife showed me who she truly was. But when the truth came out in court, she realized she'd just walked away from millions, and from me. Subscribe, like, comment and watch till the ending to share this interesting story to families and friends. The golden glow of the chandeliers shimmered off the crystal glasses, reflecting the kind of luxury that made their home look like a magazine spread. Ethan Blake leaned back in his chair, smiling as he watched his wife, Vanessa, raise her wine glass for a toast. "To us," she said, her tone sweet but rehearsed. 7 years of success, love, and prosperity. Ethan chuckled softly. "You make it sound like a business pitch." Vanessa smiled, tilting her head, her diamond earrings catching the light. "Well, in a way, marriage is a partnership, isn't it? You take care of the business and I make sure we both look good doing it." The words were light, but Ethan caught the subtle edge in her tone. He brushed it off with a laugh, cutting a slice of steak. "I'll drink to that," he said. But inside something felt off. Later that evening, as they sat on the balcony overlooking their manicured garden, Vanessa scrolled through her phone, snapping photos of the dinner setup. "Just a few pictures for Instagram," she said, angling her camera perfectly to capture the wine, the roses, and the glow of their expensive lifestyle. Ethan watched her quietly. She had changed, somewhere between their early days of building a life together and now something had shifted. She spoke less about their dreams and more about the next vacation, the next car, the next party. "Vanessa," he said softly, breaking the silence, "do you ever miss the old days? The apartment, the late nights, the takeout dinners while I was still coding in the living room?" She didn't look up from her phone. "Those days were cute, but we've grown. You've grown, Ethan. We can't live like that forever." He smiled faintly. "I know. I just meant, sometimes it feels like we've lost a bit of what made us, us." Vanessa finally looked up, her eyes softening for a second before she masked it with a charming smile. "Don't overthink it, darling. You've built something incredible. Bitcore is booming. We're fine." Ethan nodded. He wanted to believe her. When she went upstairs later, he lingered outside, watching the lights of the city blink in the distance. For the first time the thought crossed his mind, if everything vanished tomorrow, our cars, our house, the company, would she still be here? He pushed the thought away, whispering to himself, "Don't be paranoid." Upstairs, Vanessa slipped into bed beside him and kissed his cheek. "Good night, love," she murmured. But her phone lit up on the nightstand, and in the reflection of the screen, Ethan caught a glimpse of a message notification from a name he hadn't seen in years, Derek. He stared at it quietly, the smile fading from his face. The morning sun streamed into Ethan's home office, but the warmth it brought did little to ease the tension in the room. His laptop screen was filled with red figures, numbers that didn't lie. Across the line, his CFO's voice trembled. "Ethan, we've lost the Velcor contract. That's nearly 40% of projected revenue. And investors are starting to pull back. They're nervous." Ethan rubbed his temple, his heart sinking. "Can we salvage it? Maybe. If we cut costs, renegotiate salaries, delay the new product launch, but it'll look bad on paper. The board's already panicking." He closed his eyes. "All right. I'll handle the press. You stabilize the finances. Don't let anyone outside the company smell blood." But someone else had already overheard the conversation. Standing by the door, half hidden behind the hallway arch, Vanessa froze. She had come to call him for breakfast but stopped when she heard the words "lost" and "pull back." Her expression darkened, not with worry but with calculation. When Ethan finally emerged from the office, forcing a smile, she was seated at the kitchen counter sipping coffee, her phone in hand. "Everything okay?" she asked, voice calm, though her eyes studied him closely. "Yeah, just business stress. One of our clients backed out." Vanessa placed her cup down slowly. "Backed out? As in, permanently?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "It's temporary. Just a minor setback." She nodded, masking her unease with a thin smile. "I see. Well, these things happen." But her tone lacked warmth. No hug. No reassurance. Just a subtle shift in energy, one that Ethan didn't miss. That night, Ethan sat on the couch, files spread before him, trying to focus. Vanessa, on the other hand, sat opposite him, scrolling endlessly through her phone. Her messages buzzed more frequently now. "Who keeps you so busy these days?" he asked casually, his voice light. She looked up, startled for a second before recovering. "Just the girls. You know how group chats are." He smiled faintly and went back to his laptop. But he saw the reflection in the screen, a smile that flashed across her face as she typed something quickly, a softness he hadn't seen directed at him in months. Later that night, when she went to take a shower, Ethan's curiosity got the better of him. Her phone, face down on the bed, buzzed again. He turned it over. Derek, so it's true? His company's going under? Guess the golden days are over, huh? Ethan's pulse quickened. His chest tightened, but he forced himself to stay calm. He placed the phone back exactly as it was. When Vanessa came out, wrapped in a towel, he smiled as if nothing had changed. You know, he said lightly, no matter what happens, I'm just glad I've got you. She smiled, though her eyes flickered with something unreadable. Of course, Ethan. Always. But as she turned away, Ethan's expression hardened. For the first time he began to wonder, what if the only thing she truly loved was his success? 2 weeks passed, and the atmosphere in the Blake mansion turned cold. The laughter that once filled their home had been replaced by silence, broken only by the soft clicks of Vanessa's heels as she moved through the house. Elegant, distant, untouchable. Ethan noticed how she stopped asking about his meetings. How she started spending more nights out with friends, how her perfume lingered on the doorstep long after midnight. On a rainy Thursday morning, while Ethan prepared coffee, Vanessa came down the stairs dressed sharply in a tailored suit. She looked businesslike. Morning, he greeted, forcing a smile. Big day. She didn't meet his eyes. Actually, yes. There's something we need to talk about. He turned off the coffee machine. What's wrong? Vanessa set her handbag on the counter, her tone calm, practiced, like she'd rehearsed every word. Ethan, I've been thinking for a while now. Things between us aren't working anymore. We've grown apart and, she paused, searching for the right phrase, I think it's best if we go our separate ways. Ethan blinked. You're joking. I'm not, she said softly, sliding a brown envelope across the counter. These are the preliminary divorce papers. My lawyer advised me to start the process now before things get too complicated. He stared at the envelope, his stomach tightening. Complicated? You mean before my company finishes falling apart, right? Her jaw tightened. Ethan, don't make this harder than it has to be. It's not about the company. It's about us. He laughed bitterly. Us? Or what's left of what you can get from US? She glared at him. You're being cruel. I've supported you all these years. He leaned closer, his voice low and trembling. Supported me? Or enjoyed the benefits of what I built? Vanessa's face hardened. You're angry and I get it. But I've made my decision. I'll stay at the apartment downtown until the paperwork is finalized. My lawyer will contact yours. And with that, she turned, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor as she left the room. Ethan stood motionless, staring at the divorce papers. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the empty house. That night, as the storm raged outside, Ethan sat alone in the living room. On the table in front of him sat Vanessa's phone. She'd forgotten it in her rush. A message notification popped up. Derek, you did it? Finally. You deserve better than a man drowning in debt. Once the divorce is final, we'll start fresh. Just like we planned. Ethan's heart dropped. Every suspicion he'd buried now screamed in confirmation. His hands trembled, not from heartbreak, but from clarity. He opened his laptop, eyes dark with resolve. This wasn't over. By morning he had made a call to Michael, his lawyer and closest friend. His words were calm, but his tone was ice cold. Michael, I need to set up a trust. Quietly. I want everything moved under your name temporarily. And I need you to prepare for a divorce hearing that's going to change everything. The storm outside eased by dawn, but inside Ethan Blake, one had just begun. 3 days after Vanessa served him the papers, Ethan sat in his office at Bytecore, the blinds half closed, the air thick with quiet tension. Outside, the world saw a man on the verge of losing everything, but inside that office, a plan was forming. His lawyer and oldest friend, Michael Grant, sat across from him. So let me get this straight, Michael said, leaning back. You want to make it look like Bytecore is collapsing? Ethan nodded. Exactly. I want every headline, every rumor, every whisper to say that I'm finished. Michael frowned. That's risky. If investors think you're done, they'll panic for real. Ethan's voice was calm, steady. I've already secured the real deal. An international investor's coming in, 10 times stronger than Velcor ever was. But until that contract is sealed and the funds clear, everything stays off the record. I want Vanessa to believe I've lost it all. Michael studied him for a long moment. You're testing her. No, Ethan said, a quiet bitterness in his tone. I already know who she is. I'm exposing her, for everyone to see. That evening, Bytecore's internal memo accidentally leaked to the media. It suggested the company was weeks away from bankruptcy. Within hours, blogs and business sites spread the rumor like wildfire. At home, Vanessa was scrolling through her phone when she saw the headlines. Tech mogul Ethan Blake facing financial meltdown. Bytecore on the brink, sources say CEO may step down. Her expression hardened. She immediately dialed her lawyer. We need to finalize the divorce as soon as possible. I don't want to be tied to him financially when everything goes down. Meanwhile, Ethan quietly signed documents transferring his personal assets, properties, and investments into a blind trust under Michael's management. Every move was legal, discreet, and irreversible from Vanessa's end. 2 days later, she arrived at the mansion to pick up a few things. Ethan greeted her politely as if nothing had changed. You look tired, she said casually, glancing around. Everything okay with the company? He gave a tired smile. Not really. But I'll manage somehow. She sighed dramatically. I hope so. Sad really. You worked so hard. He nodded. It's just money, Vanessa. I'll survive. Vanessa forced a sympathetic smile but couldn't hide the flicker of relief in her eyes. Well, I should go. My lawyer's waiting. Ethan followed her to the door, his tone gentle. Take care of yourself. You too, she said without meeting his gaze. As soon as she drove away, Ethan pulled out his phone and hit record on a hidden app. A few minutes later, Vanessa's voice filled the speaker. She'd called Derek, unaware that Ethan's spyware was linked to her phone's cloud backup. He's finished, Derek. By the time this divorce settles, I'll have my share before he goes bankrupt. Then it's just you and me. Ethan listened in silence, his jaw tightening. There was no rage, just clarity. He turned off the recording and whispered, Thank you, Vanessa. You just gave me everything I need. The courtroom was filled with the low hum of voices and shuffling papers. A faint scent of polished wood and coffee lingered in the air. Vanessa Blake sat confidently beside her lawyer, dressed immaculately in a cream suit, her hair pulled into a perfect bun. Her expression was calm, smug even. Across from her, Ethan sat with Michael, quiet and composed, in a dark suit that reflected neither wealth nor defeat. He seemed serene. Vanessa leaned slightly toward her lawyer. Once this is over, I just want to move on, she whispered, pretending to sound heartbroken. Her lawyer nodded. We'll push for 50% of the estate and business assets. Given the supposed collapse, it's in your best interest to finalize now before liabilities increase. Ethan overheard but didn't flinch. His gaze was steady, fixed on the wooden grain of the desk before him. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. We're here for the dissolution of marriage between Ethan Blake and Vanessa Blake, the judge began. Petitioner, Mrs. Blake, seeks spousal compensation and 50% of shared assets. Mr. Blake, do you contest this claim? Michael rose. Your Honor, we do. Vanessa smirked faintly. Of course he does, she thought. Men always fight before they lose. The judge nodded. Proceed. Michael opened a folder and began calmly. Your Honor, my client has no issue with the divorce itself. However, we believe this claim is based on false pretenses and deliberate deception. Vanessa's brow furrowed slightly. Her lawyer whispered, Ignore it, it's a tactic. But then Michael produced a USB drive. With the court's permission, we'd like to submit audio evidence. The courtroom speakers crackled to life. Vanessa's voice filled the room, clear and damning. He's finished, Derek. By the time this divorce settles, I'll have my share before he goes bankrupt. Then it's just you and me. Gasps erupted. Vanessa's lawyer turned pale. Vanessa froze, her lips parting in disbelief. Your Honor, Michael continued, his tone steady, the petitioner's actions demonstrate intent to defraud my client. Furthermore, the alleged bankruptcy is false. Bytecore Systems has not collapsed. He handed another set of documents to the judge. In fact, as of last week, Bytecore finalized a merger with Ionix Global. The company's valuation has tripled, making Mr. Blake's holdings worth over $200 million. The judge looked up sharply. Is this true, Mr. Blake? Ethan nodded calmly. Yes, Your Honor. The financial reports Mrs. Blake acted on were deliberately withheld from the public to protect merger confidentiality. I had no intention of deception, except to verify loyalty. Vanessa's composure cracked. You set me up? Ethan's eyes were cold but calm. No, Vanessa. I gave you a chance to stand beside me when things looked dark. You walked away. The judge's voice cut through the silence. Given this evidence, Mrs. Blake's claims for asset division and spousal support are denied. Furthermore, her actions may be subject to investigation for marital fraud. Vanessa's eyes filled with panic. Ethan, please, this isn't what it looks like. But he stood, buttoned his jacket and said quietly, it's exactly what it looks like. He turned and walked out, leaving her trembling in front of the entire courtroom. The sound of cameras clicking echoed down the courthouse steps as Vanessa Blake pushed past reporters, her sunglasses barely hiding her tears. The woman who once graced charity galas and magazine covers now moved like a ghost through flashing lights and judgmental stares. Mrs. Blake, any comment on the fraud allegations? Did you really try to take half your husband's assets before the merger? She ignored them, jaw clenched, eyes forward. Her car wasn't waiting. Derek was supposed to pick her up. She dialed his number, no answer. She called again, still nothing. After a long pause, a message appeared on her screen. Derek, Vanessa, I can't get involved in this mess. Don't call me again. Her hands trembled. The phone slipped from her grasp, landing on the courthouse steps with a crack. She stood there frozen as the whispers grew louder. The woman who had everything was now utterly alone. That night, her penthouse felt colder than ever. The silence pressed against her like a weight. She poured herself a drink and stared out over the city lights, the same skyline she'd once bragged about on social media. Now it only mocked her. The next morning her bank called. Her accounts were frozen pending investigation. The luxury car, registered under Ethan's company, was repossessed by noon. By evening, the landlord of her downtown apartment served her a notice for overdue rent. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt fear, not the fear of losing status but of being truly forgotten. Weeks turned into months. The gossip faded, but so did her circle. Invitations stopped coming. Her friends avoided her. The boutique job she finally managed to get barely covered her bills. She traded her tailored suits for plain blouses and worn heels. Sometimes she'd sit on her lunch break scrolling through old photos of her and Ethan, vacations, anniversaries, smiles that once felt real. And each time her throat tightened. One evening after closing the store, she sat on a park bench, the city noise faint around her. She opened her phone and hesitated for a long time before typing a message. Vanessa, Ethan? I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I made a terrible mistake. I thought I was protecting myself, but I destroyed everything. I hope you're happy truly. She stared at the screen, debating whether to hit send. Finally she did. Hours passed. No reply. Back at Ethan's penthouse, the message appeared on his phone. He read it quietly, his face unreadable. For a moment, his thumb hovered over the keyboard, but then he locked the screen and set the phone aside. In the distance, thunder rolled over the city. Vanessa sat by her window, watching the rain streak down the glass, her reflection blurred and unfamiliar. For the first time she whispered to herself, I traded love for security, and lost both. The early morning sun spilled across the glass walls of Bitcore's new headquarters, painting the office in warm gold. Ethan Blake stood by the window, coffee in hand, looking out over the city skyline. It had been 6 months since the court case, 6 months since the storm had finally passed. Behind him, the office buzzed with life. Engineers talking softly, interns rushing between departments, the hum of computers filling the air. Bitcore had not only survived, it had thrived. The merger with Inex Global had made it one of the most innovative firms in the country. Ethan sipped his coffee and exhaled. For the first time in years he felt light. A knock came on the door. Mr. Blake. It was Amelia Cruz, the young architect who had designed Bitcore's new workspace. She stood at the door, tablet in hand, her presence calm and unpretentious. Morning, Amelia, he greeted warmly. You're early. She smiled. I could say the same for you. Just came to go over the final phase of the office design. The garden terrace is ready if you'd like to see it. He gestured for her to lead the way. Together they walked to the rooftop terrace, a serene space filled with greenery, glass railings, and the sound of distant traffic below. It's beautiful, Ethan said, genuinely impressed. Exactly what I wanted, something alive, something that grows. Amelia smiled softly. It fits you. You strike me as someone who's seen the storm but still believes in planting things. He looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. Maybe I'm learning how. They sat on a bench, watching the city wake beneath them. The wind played through Amelia's hair, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan didn't feel the weight of his past. After a moment, she glanced at him. You know, people don't usually recover from betrayal that gracefully. Ethan chuckled quietly. I didn't at first. But I realized revenge doesn't heal you, it just keeps you tied to the pain. Letting go, that's what finally set me free. She nodded thoughtfully. Then you've already won. He smiled at her words, the sincerity in her tone warming something in him that had been dormant. As they returned to the office, Ethan paused by a framed quote hanging near the entrance. A piece Vanessa had once chosen for decoration but never understood. Strength is not in how you fight the storm but in how you rise after it. He lingered for a moment, then turned away, leaving the past in that frame. Outside, the day stretched bright and clear. His phone buzzed with a new message from Michael. Board just approved the new project expansion. Congratulations, my friend. Ethan smiled, sliding the phone into his pocket. The elevator doors closed behind him as he murmured to himself, "It's time to build again, this time on solid ground." And as the camera faded out, sunlight flooded the space, a quiet symbol of rebirth. The city skyline shimmered in the orange glow of sunset, reflecting off the tall glass windows of Ethan's penthouse. The air was quiet, peaceful, almost sacred. On the table lay an old photo frame, Ethan and Vanessa, smiling at their wedding, still frozen in a moment that no longer existed. He picked up the frame and stared at it for a long while. The smile on his face was neither bitter nor nostalgic, just calm acceptance. He placed it carefully inside a drawer and closed it. Moments later, the soft chime of a doorbell broke the silence. Ethan opened the door to find Amelia standing there, holding a small potted plant. "You mentioned wanting something alive for your home," she said, smiling shyly. "Thought this might be a good start." Ethan's expression softened. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said. "You gave me a chance when no one else did." He took the plant, setting it by the window where the last rays of sun touched its leaves. "Thank you," he said quietly. "It's perfect." They shared a quiet moment, the kind that didn't need words. As Amelia left, Ethan stood by the window again, watching the city fade into twilight. The narration of his thoughts began, soft and steady as if carried by the evening breeze. "They say love is tested not in how it begins, but in how it endures the storm. When my world started to fall apart, I thought I lost everything, my company, my marriage, my peace. But what I really lost was an illusion. An illusion of loyalty built on comfort, not commitment." He turned, glancing at the now empty living room. Pain has a strange way of showing you the truth. Some people hold your hand only when you're flying high. But when you fall, their grip loosens. And that's when you finally see who's real. Ethan's reflection appeared in the window, layered over the glowing skyline. A man who had been broken and rebuilt, not by revenge but by revelation. "I don't hate Vanessa. In a way she set me free. Free to start again, free to build with honesty, free to love without fear." He looked down at the small green plant by the window, its leaves trembling lightly in the breeze. Because sometimes it's not about what you lose, it's about what you learn. And I learned that real strength isn't in holding on, it's in knowing when to let go. The camera slowly pulled back, showing Ethan standing in the fading golden light, the city stretching endlessly below. The piano music swelled, soft but triumphant. As the screen darkened, his final words echoed. "In the end, the fall didn't destroy me, it revealed me." The credits rolled over a final shot of the little plant, basking in the warm light of dawn, symbolizing life, growth, and new beginnings. Subscribe, like, comment, and share for more interesting stories.